welcome whoever watches this. First of all, this is for my own benefit because I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about today. If anyone gets any benefit out of it as well, well, good for you, right? So, I want to say, I'm here with my friend Holly. Do you go by Holly or Anahata? Or I'm always a little confused because I know your Facebook says Anahata Hollywell. What do you prefer?
So my name's Holly Hollowell, but I love the sound of Anahata. And so I sort of go by Anahata as more of an accolade. It's more of like an exchange of energy, because when you hear that word, you're just like, ah, yeah. So a little bit of both. You can call me either.
I like it. By the way, you're freezing up a bit. How is your connection where you're at?
Well, I live on a ley line. So I have had 3 internet service providers, and none of them can figure out why my electronics go in and out. But it's because I live on a vortex ley line on a meridian. So it is what it is. And I'll just claim that space for us to get what we get, and we'll just go with it.
All right.
But sometimes
we go. We speak a blessing of internet connection over your space at the moment. How's that?
Thank you. Yeah, it works.
So, what we're going to talk today about is water and the power of water and its ability to carry messages and frequency and everything. And, most people, if you ask them, oh, have you ever seen, if they're kind of a little nerdy, woo-woo, have you ever seen the messages in water for Emoto? Is that his name? People are like, oh, yeah, I've seen those pictures. But, you see them, you're like, how does that actually work? It must be some sort of complicated process to actually get those pictures. And, and you just dismiss it, right? And I was talking to you the other day. You're like, oh, Steve, it's super easy. You just do X, Y, Z. I'm like, oh my God. I'm going to totally start doing that. I want to start playing around with that. So we met because through Facebook, and we started having some conversations about frequency, and specifically the Iteracare wand and its ability to shoot a terahertz frequency and what it does to water. Okay, so very briefly, before we go into the cool stuff about water and what it does and everything, what I mean by that is this device here. Okay, you see a picture of it. Is it's a terahertz frequency wand. Think fancy hair dryer, right? It shoots a terahertz frequency. It can shoot it about a foot through your body, okay? And terahertz frequency, I mean, you probably give a better explanation. I say it's the frequency of healthy cells. Like you pointed at something that you want to upgrade the frequency to, right? And so you can do this one. This one's like, people always ask, like, how much is it? It's about $350 for that. Better than the $40,000 that they used to be for this type of technology. If you really want, if you're someone who really prefers to drive a Bentley instead of the Chevy, this is the professional version. And this is one I actually bought for my folks because they got such good result on the cheap one. I'm like, my parents are almost 90. I'm like, I'm going to invest whatever I gotta to make sure that you're doing well, and they love this device. So tell me a bit about, you're like the water lady, right? And you said something to me the other day and I was like, oh, like it made so much sense to me and I really appreciate it. You said, Steve, so many people, they want to manifest things and they have positive affirmations and everything, but the water in their body isn't carrying the right message. So you have all this, the lack of agreement. Does that make sense? I may be saying one thing, but my whole body is vibrating with an entirely different tune. I'm like, man, that makes so much sense. So tell me a bit about like how you got into this and like what's the deal with this and what's your experience been with this wand and what are you excited about these days?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I could speak for 45 minutes. I'm going to like zoom out and give you the cliff notes. I had a nervous breakdown, like everything was going wrong. I surrendered because I knew I didn't have the answers. I said, okay, God, you got this. What do you want me to know? And that sort of opened this perpetual door of inspiration that came to me left, right, and center. When you ask, you receive. And I was like wild. I was on this, ride of discovery and self-healing. I became a Reiki practitioner, interested in crystals, and got my emotion code certification in 1 year. And then in the second year, I started receiving this information straight from God in this waking. It was like a prayer. And I was like, what do you want me to know? And it wasn't like a voice. It was like a knowing. And I was being led here, there, and everywhere. And what he was telling me was, everything is one. We are connected to everything. We don't have to have the herb next to us, the crystal next to us, color therapy. We live in this beautiful bounty of frequency and vibration, and that you can activate what's called, I call resonance remembrance, through simply connecting back into that essence of the thing. And so it's been a wild ride over the last 8 years. I've been channeling what I call assisting frequencies, and those are numbers, because, the screen that we're looking into right now is a series of ones and zeros. That's it. And so think about having the whole spectrum of numbers and what you can do with that. It's astonishing in terms of frequency. And so I've been channeling codes, and that led me one day to realize that water holds and emits energy and information. And so I started exploring about 6 years ago, programming water with codes, and I was getting crazy results, and I call them elixirs. And so I was like, and I was just letting that kind of digest as I proceeded on with my work. And as I mentioned to you, I had a profound memory. Some people believe in past lives. We don't really know. Was this an ancestral awakening memory from something in my lineage? I don't know. But I remembered being in Lemuria. Okay, so now it gets really wild. This was in a millisecond. I had this whole memory of walking on water, and it was like totally logical. Okay, so in my memory, I was like, well, that's obvious we can do that, because we are oscillating in and out of wave and particle 7 times per second. And so if you can elongate that wave state of being and literally enlighten, you can use the surface tension of water to walk. Well, we were doing all sorts of other cool things as well, energetically. And so it led me down the rabbit hole to water science, where we're at, what we've forgotten, what we should remember. And then I published my book in November. It went bestseller for a day. I was like, yes, it's gaining momentum. I'm excited about it. People are really intrigued. It's a compilation of science, as well as my memory, as well as codes. And now what I'm most excited about is the wand. I resonated straight to, I don't go on Facebook to look around. I go on there to post. And I was going to post, and I see a picture of you, and you're like, this is how the Keller household flexes. And I thought, what is that machine? I need one. And so my higher self was like, ding, ding, ding. And I looked at it, and when you said what it was, I knew instantaneously what it was. I was like, oh my God, this is going to structure the water in really profound ways, because that's what I teach. The first step of using water as a vital tool of manifestation is to get it to hold a hexagonal structure. So the water we receive out of the tap, or even chemically pure, it's not holding hands. It's really erratic. And you can think of it as like the internet. Like you're either tuned in to it or it's not. And so the water we drink, it's totally not structured. And there's all sorts of things that can do it. But heart photons are actually one of the most profound ways to structure water. You mentioned Masaru Emoto. And so I teach people to literally use love and gratitude to build this crystalline structure. That's step one. But you can also just use the Iteracare wand and wand it for 60 seconds. And it structures the water in such a way that you're literally building little portals to anything you desire. Because when it's structured that way, what happens is the Merkabas start spinning. This is sacred geometry. And you can connect in beyond our dimension into Akasha and pull through the wormholes of water. This is very scientific. I talk all about it in my book. You pull through the wormholes of water any essence you want. And so your water can actually become the vibrational equivalent of whatever it is you're trying to manifest on a visceral level. So as you said, we can say we want something, but our body may be not vibrating that, or we have a past belief, or we have this rigid structure, or a trauma, or any number of issues going on physically, emotionally, mentally. And what happens when you drink that living water is it gets everything online with divine. And then you can center in. And as you said, the terahertz, it literally blasts all the way through your body, in the water of your body, the resonance of health. It basically gets you back online with homeostasis. And our bodies go, oh, yeah, that's how it flows. That's how things work. That's how we sustain life. That's how we evolve. And you can even actually start activating evolutionary DNA. There's empty space on our DNA. We're turning into sort of human, 3.0 in a good way. And so we're remembering our connection. We're using the water of our body to literally become who we want to be on a vibrational level. Because as you know, with the law of attraction, you don't get what you ask for, you get who you are. And so if you aren't vibrating, you're going to, you can say you want something and then you can be vibrating the opposite through your focus. And that's what you end up getting. And it can be very confusing for people. Not anymore. So I'm just excited about combining the wand with, and then, so I get it in the mail and I was like, holy cow, because the pamphlet says, wand the water. I was like, well, I'm doing that anyway. And I was like, confirmation. And then you drink and you wand your meridians. And it's like, it's a whole new world. We are entering a whole new realm of vitality. And everyone needs, as I say, everyone needs this device in their home. Not just for if you have the health issues. I'm talking about for evolution, right? This isn't just a, if you're ill, this is a, do you want to upgrade? This is a really amazing breakthrough. And I'm super pumped that I came across you and it. And so that's the Cliff Notes version of my life in the past 8 years.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes what I say to people, because often the people I talk to, I'm kind of more the guy who talks a lot about like this stuff, but from a slightly more biblical perspective. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I always say, look, I go, if God created this world, which is a quantum physics world, and God created you to rule and reign in this world, it would only make sense that every aspect of our being would be in alignment and capable of optimizing and interacting in a quantum physics world. And the more you grab a hold of that and believe it, it's extraordinary. Yeah, I think you would find very interesting. Later I can send you some links. There's a lot of people could consider themselves more like Christian mystics, and the expectation and belief of what they're capable of doing and what they experience is just really out there. I think you would love it. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I'll tell you kind of what I'm doing with the water, and you give me suggestions on maybe why it's working or how I could even upgrade it. That makes sense? Perfect. Like I think you would love having a conversation with Joey Phillips, because you guys would totally nerd out on the quantum hexagonal spinning whatever, right? Because I interviewed him because he had said something about, put some fulvic acid in the water and then wand it and it will create quantum rotating blah 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 whatever. I'm like, something about it was like in you knew the wand, you needed it. Like when he said that, something inside it was like ding 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 ding. I'm like, what is that? And I do a lot of muscle testing, and I was like, it was something about that muscle tested off the chart, like ping. I'm like, okay, well, what is it doing? And so I went through some options. Is it working on my endocrine system? No, it was like, no. But then when I got to DNA expression, it was like bing, 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 bing. I'm like, interesting. Yeah. So I started poking around, and I'm like, I find out that Joey Phillips is really into optimizing DNA expression, right? And so I started playing around with it. What I find is the combination of the water and fulvic acid. And people go, well, which one to use? I go on Amazon, I order something called BLK. It seems to work great, super basic. People get very nerdy about their fulvic acid, whatever you want to use, right? But it was very interesting. Like it had potential, but on muscle tested, can I handle it? My body's like, no. And I'm like, that's so weird. Why? What do I need to do? And what I found out for me is I had to deal with is it actually, do I feel it's actually safe to be as powerful as my original design actually predicts me to be? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if, we're talking about a bit about upgrading, but sometimes people need to just like, how about you rise up to where the potential already is? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So what I find typically when I take the water, I will have to do a lot of very simple confessions about that it's good and safe for me to be powerful. It's good and safe for other people to be powerful. And I'll sit there and I'll hold it and I'll confess over it. What I do is I actually confess over it abundance in my life. I confess over it that my physical body comes into alignment and agreement with its original divine design and different things like that. And then when I drink it, it's like, boom, it's like something weird about that stuff. So
Yeah.
what do you do? By the way, one other thing I heard from somebody that I love to hear you comment on, someone goes, what you do is you take a bowl and you put a glass over the bowl and you put on the glass your supplements, your essential oils, whatever, and then you shoot the frequency wand through that stuff into the water. I'm like, oh, that's like, I'll try anything. I like experimenting. What do you think about all that? What are your
Oh,
comments?
oh my gosh. So yes, yes, and yes. All of the above. And so to try and remember the loopholes that we went through, you can project anything into water and it will hold and reverberate that. This is why your body probably was like, you got to confess first, because you don't want to be drinking the thought that you can't handle what's happening, right? Like that's not going to be cohesive for your body. You have to get okay with where you're at and then upgrade. And so water is an amplifier. It takes what it's given. It can take the, Masaru Emoto's the fear and the hate and the stuff he was projecting in, it was all erratic. It was being expressed, right? And so water's going to do that either way. And so thank the Lord that the highest vibration of health is love, is unconditional love. And so you see the exquisite patterns of the higher vibrations that are more intelligent, that are more you can amplify them to farther areas because they're coherent, they're not erratic. It's all love-based. So luckily our natural resonance is love, and that is the most intelligent structure. But absolutely, you need to be ready for what you're doing, or you can actually negate what you're doing. You are the placebo, if you will. There's a book, I think, out. Oh gosh, I forgot the person who wrote that, but it's true. It's the placebo nocebo.
Is it Dispenza?
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, he's really, really good as well. So anyway,
that sounds like a Joe Dispenza book.
yeah. But just to reiterate your projection methodology, water will hold and emit that resonance, so you can wand anything, and that vibration will go into the molecular structure of the water like a hologram and reflect it out onto every single molecule. And water is very, very tiny. So you can imagine these little realities all projecting the same thing. And that adds up to, when you drink it, this really powerful activation of the resonance of whatever it was that you were putting in there. Now, thankfully, your body seeks homeostasis. So it's
quick question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Is it better to confess over the water while you're wandering it, or can you do it afterwards?
Well,
which is optimal?
There is no time. Time is, you can retroactively do anything. If you forgot, you can go back in time. Time is not, it's linear because that's the way we perceive of it. So I believe doing it beforehand makes you feel more prepared in some way. But if you forget and you do it after, it actually retroacts. So either or, doesn't matter.
Perfect.
But you can actually drink the reality you seek through using water as an amplifier, because you're I think they say 99% molecularly, but maybe 70%, materially, it's like matter says 70%, but on a molecular level, we are 99% water. And so it's a very powerful, and here's this other thing that I really enjoy about water is when you give it information, it talks to the other water molecules, and it's sort of like dropping dye inside water. So you could take one drop of the Iteric hair wanded water and drop it into another vessel of water, and it's going to speak to that water. It's going to get all of that water on board. It's like dropping dye in and it
A
just
lot of
goes,
people, you're not the first person to tell me that.
yeah, it's really amazing.
I had a friend of mine, a few months ago. She's very into the quantum and this and that, and I know her from the church I go to in California. And she's like, she starts texting me. She goes, Steve, I'm playing around this. This is freaking cool. She goes, the water. She was talking about how much it jumps the vibration, and she goes, if you take some of that water and you put it in water that you didn't wand, it will charge it.
Yeah.
I'm like, she goes, you can wand anything with water. You can wand your oranges and your apples and this and that.
Yeah.
And she was like
Yeah.
texting, like,
It's so true.
Coolest thing ever. So
yeah.
like,
yeah. And I mean, this is scientific too. They do, homeopathy. It is one molecular unit of the thing inside, and then they dilute it down to where there's no physical remnants of the thing. It's all vibration. And yet if you put one drop, it's the equivalent of dilution to one drop in the entire Atlantic Ocean, and you can still see the energy signature. So the power of water to really hold and reverberate wellness is something that I think is going to come into the forefront of technology in the next few years in a big way, in a huge way. And I mean, even just thinking about with the DNA, what holds up DNA? Water, right? I mean, it's just like, we've been looking at it's almost like you're a fish in the water and the fish doesn't know that it's like, what water? We're like walking petri dishes, and yet we're focused on just the physical parts. When you look at the blood cell, or when you look at the whatever, you're like looking at what is, but the anti-is, or the background tapestry, that's water. That's who we are. So it's totally going to be fascinating, as we all remember.
Okay, petri dishes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's talk about the petri dishes, right? So I'm talking with you, and you're like, oh, Steve, it's super simple. You take a petri dish, you put a little water in it, and you said to me, Steve, you need to know exactly how long to keep it in your freezer, and when you open the door at the right time, poof, it crystallizes, it freezes over, and you put it in the window, and you take a picture with your iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? That's it?
I know.
I'm like, that sounds super cool. So tell me a bit, did someone teach you this, or do you just experiment? Or
so Masaru Emoto taught a number of people who taught some guy who taught Veda Austin. So this lady, Veda Austin, she's amazing. One of my students said, oh my God, you got to check her out. And I went to her Facebook page, and she's doing water research. And so I learned it from her. And I was so excited because I remember thinking, I wish I had a microscope and could do what Masaru did. And wouldn't that be nice? But oh, well, this other guy was teaching that, no, like this quantum phenomena has now emerged into, we can see it. We're elevating as humans to a place in vibrational resonance where we can start seeing this quantum phenomenon with our eyes. And so, yeah, I just learned from her, and she's very clear and concise. You just get a petri dish, 3 inches diameter glass. You put a couple milliliters of water in the bottom. You put it in your freezer. You got to wait and see, as you said, right at that moment that it freezes. It's like taking a photograph with water. If it's a solid block, you won't see the hydroglyphs. If it's water, you won't see the hydroglyphs. So you want to get it right at that crystallization moment. And you simply take it out, dump off any condensation, wipe the bottom, and hold it up to a source of light. Zoom in your iPhone to, let's say, 2+, snap a photo. And you got to be fast because it's melting. But the hydroglyphs that you see are absolutely stunning. I could probably share my screen and show you some of them.
Speaking.
Oh, did you want to share?
Well, you're still frozen. I can share my screen. How about this one right here? Can you see that on your end?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I see it.
So tell me about what oops, hold on. I lost it there. Where'd it go? Okay. Tell me, when you see this, what are you seeing it that the average lay person is not going to notice?
Well, I see lots of things, but the average person won't understand until you see these hash mark looking, it goes to the one angle and then it goes up and down. That's that's a hydroglyph that's well known with water researchers, which means matrix or mother. And it also conveys that there is a network of information, of divine information, being captured by the water, being reverberated, being expressed, right? So this water right here, when you look at it, it may just look pretty and you don't know why, but there's glyphs in here that are showing that this is living water. You can see the foliage looking, you know, the leaf, it's growing, it's growth. It's
it looks like it's growing and abundant and lush.
Exactly. And when you just freeze regular water, it is ho-hum, ugly. There's no artistic flair to it. And you know, this petri dish is just wanded water. So all I did is wand it with the terahertz wand. That's it. That's all I did for 60 seconds. And then I poured it in the petri dish and threw it in the freezer. And that's the glyphs. And if you zoom in, you can see all sorts of other really amazing things, like the staircase, which means evolution. And there's all sorts of like fern-like images. It's very beautiful to look at, even if you don't know why. But when you really understand what each glyph is saying, that these water researchers have built, you know, libraries of hydroglyphs and what they mean, then it all makes more sense. And you're like, oh my gosh, this wand is pretty incredible. And then you drink that, and it goes into your body, and it tells the blood of your body and the water of your body.
So you had sent me some. You had sent me some pictures which were really interesting. I can't find them right now, but it was regular water and then wanded water, and then you added the wanded water to the regular water, and it changed it.
Yeah.
In your well, let me ask you this. So depending on where people find this, if someone's like, okay, cool, I totally want to connect with this lady and learn some more, maybe get your book and everything.
Yeah.
What's the best place for people to do that?
I would go to the Assisting Frequencies group on Facebook. That's the best, most relevant place, because my website's really outdated and I'm just continually inside that group, sharing wisdom, information, hydroglyphs, photos. So I would go there, the Assisting Frequency group on Facebook. The second thing is I do have a...
I see a Anahata code. I see the Anahata codes activate Assisting Frequency. Is that it?
That is it. But if you just go to groups and search Assisting Frequencies, it's the only one that pops up, called Anahata code. Yeah, Anahata codes and activate Assisting Frequencies, whatever you just said. That's the long title.
I can show people a picture. I can show people a picture of it. This cool group by Holly Hollowell.
Yeah. Anahata codes activate
cool
frequencies. Yeah, that's it.
Are there some cool pictures in here of water?
Oh, everywhere. Scroll down. Yeah, look, there's one.
Yeah.
Scroll down, there's more. In fact,
how about this one? Is this, if we look at this, is that water?
Where? Oh yes, all of those are water as well.
Can you see?
Yeah, this was wild. This was truly magnificent. So one of the most well-known hydroglyphs is a heart, and it's fascinating how it's created. It's this vortex heart that appears in your petri dish. And so I was sidetracked by the heart because I was like, yay, that's so beautiful. And I almost missed the fact that what crystallized was the actual amplituhedron shape. So here's the wild part. I was hosting a workshop and I set the water in front of my microphone and recorded the workshop. And at the end, I froze the water, and we were talking about the amplituhedron shape and how the sacred geometry is basically the best representation of what is and isn't all simultaneously. It was quantum physics-based discussion. And if you were to overlay that top left shape, that is, if you zoom in, it's perfectly in the, it's stunning. I can't even believe that water just was like, yeah, that's what it looks like. The amplituhedron. If you scroll to the right, you might be able to see. Yeah, you see that, because you see how it's a perfectly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a hexagon shape in the middle of that dark looking area. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right in the very, very center of that. Oh,
yeah.
I do see that now.
Yeah,
it's wild. Zoom in a little bit more.
Yeah. So
Let's see if we can do
There's
that. I
messages
think
in
that's the
water,
closest.
for
So
sure.
like right there in the very center of that left one. That's
Exactly.
freaky.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a pretty complex shape.
Huh.
And if you were to see the actual amplituhedron, you would laugh because God also decided to make that top pi part, which is an obtuse looking at, oh, there it is. See, there's the shape. Do you see the shape? No, go back to where you were.
Yeah.
Like back to all the images that you were looking at on the page.
Yeah.
Like,
All together at one.
Yeah, all together tiled. You'll see the actual amp right there, that big rainbow looking shape. It was there a second ago. If you just close out of that specific image, when you see all of the images as thumbnails, you can see the amplituhedron as the rainbow shape, and it's like that one right there, which your mouse is on. That's the amplituhedron, and so it's incredible.
Ooh, that one's the best.
Yeah, right. And so it was like wild that we were able to capture that in water, and this is one of millions of represent. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And so to me, it's very fun because we can feel like we're transformed on the inside. We can feel better, but when we can,
is that water there? Like what? No.
Oh, people all around the world.
What is this one we're looking at?
I know that one was called I Am Butterfly. I was talking about butterfly magic, and what ended up happening in the hydroglyph was a butterfly going into a rose. If you can see it in the top, there's the little, in fact, I highlight it later. But I mean, it's just, you can't make this stuff up. It's like so wild. And this is happening, every time. It's not just like once in a while.
All super cool.
Yeah, there's the butterfly. It was just
Boom.
Incredible.
Whoa.
Incredible. Yeah. So lots of cool stuff happening.
Wow.
That one, what was that one? Oh, that was the chromosome. If you click on that again, you can clearly see a chromosome.
Which one?
The one you just clicked on.
Down.
I think it's up a little. Yeah. Anyway, lots of
one here?
Fun stuff. No, that one is a different one. Right there, to the right of the water. To the right of that. Yes. So you see that little chromosome? Look, that's DNA. That's the holograph. That's the holograph. The hydroglyph for DNA optimization is that chromosome. So yeah, you were in the right spot. That one that you were just on.
Interesting. Which one? This one here?
The one that you just clicked on. Yes, that one. Yep, right here. So you see that chromosome looking shape right on the bottom right hand side? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means DNA upgrades are available in the water.
Ooh.
And it's just like so incredible.
Tricky.
Yeah.
So what how about for you personally, what do you think have you felt any benefits, changes? I know you're super excited about sharing this wand information with people.
Yeah.
What have you sensed and perceived as you played around with it?
Well, I've done a lot of distant wanding for people. So as you said, I'm excited, and I feel like I'm at my best weight, my best health. I'm vibrant, I'm healthy. I'm not depressed. I have no chronic issues, no pain. I'm just super, super in a good place. So for me to say that the wand has made a difference in my life is like saying, a marathon runner is better at running, right? It's like, well, my life is just great anyway.
Yeah.
What
I get it.
Yeah. But what I've been able to see with other people is immediate transformation. Students that were at a 10 level pain, I wanded the water remotely, drank the water on behalf of them, wanded the area of the body that they're having issues with, and spooky action at a distance, they go from 10 to 0 pain. And it's like, oh my God, we can wand each other distantly. It's so incredible, it's wild.
By the way, people who aren't nerds like us, you just quoted Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
Spooky action at a distance, which is what he used to describe this type of evidence that everything is connected and not distant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and actually,
I mean, I do that all the I muscle test people for a living over distance. So everything's definitely connected for sure.
And I think that's the maybe
Right.
the final thought to all of this is that healing is a return to the memory of wholeness. That's what healing is. If you look at the root word, a return to the memory of wholeness. And when we are connected, we are whole,
Yeah.
and therefore we aren't separate, we aren't in fear, and things are firing and wiring, and all systems are go. This is why connecting beyond yourself into a creator, source, whatever you want to say, that's vibrancy right there, and we can't do it without that. And so connectivity is key, and all dis-ease is simply just a miscommunication. It's just something that's not communicating. And when you can get everything back online and communicating via the wand, via water, it's like, oh, your body goes, I remember. And boy, then you just regenerate. And so I will say, I have been noticing I've been aging in reverse. That's always fun. It's like, holy cow.
To get people's attention. The thing I tell clients a lot is that, if I go to get my car right now and the battery cable's loose, not even disconnected, when I try and start the car doesn't start, and the engine brakes, heating, transmission, air, like nothing's working. And symptom wise, it could be a little alarming, but it would definitely be a mistake to scrap my 2017 Tundra for scrap metal because the battery cable's loose, right? It's like, and so, I think one thing, if people have an expectation or a belief that no matter kind of what's going on in them, that if they find the right thing, they can return to their original design.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
It
right?
is. Yeah.
And so what I'm getting out of this conversation is I'm going to start being much more intentional, not just, oh, I'm wanding stuff, wanting the water, watching the news. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, becoming very, very intentional. For me personally, what I'll probably do is I might, say, for example, muscle test and use, I use something called the Advanced Inner Healing Muscle Testing Toolkit, which you can go to muscletestingkit.com. It's like a 30-page document that you can use muscle testing to describe things super accurately and quickly. But I'll probably use that and be a little bit more deliberate on, okay, what is the most empowering thing for me to connect to today? And muscle test that, and then very intentionally, as I'm wanting the water or speaking into the water I drink, to be very deliberate that that's what I'm going to give my body, that frequency.
Yes, they did a study in Kassel, Germany, a repeatable study where they looked at the heart photons coming out of your heart, the light coming off your heart, photons. You can't see it with your eyeballs, but they can measure it. And an average person who's just watching the news or doing whatever, just wanding, they emit 20 photons per second. Now, what happens when you center in your heart space with gratitude and love as a beacon when you're wanding is you are also now emitting 100,000 photons of light per second from your heart. And when that combines with the terahertz frequency, like, holy cow, now we're in business. So yes, intention, love, gratitude, and you can really get some spectacular results instantaneously when you wand the water that way.
I love it. I'll briefly share one story that inspires me, but something to think about is if people were to Google this term, Wild Bill, and the word Wuppertal, Wuppertal, Wild Bill Wuppertal, you would find a story about Wild Bill from Wuppertal. Okay. And it's a story about a man, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. This soldier talks about liberating a concentration camp. And he talks about meeting this guy. He's like, this guy encouraged me. He goes, man, it was such a bleak place, but this guy, when I need encouragement, I went to this guy. But clearly he hadn't been there for very long. His eyes were bright, his energy clear, his focus. He was like, man, he could only been there like a couple of week or two, maybe, right? Long story short, everyone in the camp loved him. He helped people interact and solve problems, right? And then one day the guy said, then I find out he's been there for 6 years. 6 years in the concentration camp with no physical evidence whatsoever. Now, you got to understand, people were dying from having been in the concentration camp for 2 years after they got out, right?
Yep.
And then the guy said once, he goes, and they're sitting around, he goes, talking about people who would, you know, some of these people who had been released, they would grab a gun, run to the nearest village, and just shoot the first German they saw. They had so much hate, right? And he said to this, they're having tea, and he says, this guy, he goes, well, it's so easy, it's so difficult for them to forgive. They've lost so much. And Wild Bill leaned back in his chair, and he looked like he was remembering. He goes, we lived in the Jewish section of Warsaw. He goes, me and my wife and our 2 little girls and our 3 little boys. And he goes, and the Nazis came and then lined up my whole family and machine gunned all of them. And he goes, I had to decide right then and there what I was going to do with this. He goes, it was an easy decision for me, really. I had been a lawyer, and I had seen what hate would do to people's minds and bodies. And he goes, so I made a decision right there that for the rest of my days, whether it was a few minutes or many years, that I would love every single person I came in contact with.
Wow.
And it's like, whoo, you know,
Whoa.
like, oh, how you can't, like, and people running around there like, oh, I need the proper filtered water, and I need to have the right air purifier, and I can only have, like, you know, my special, you know, organic food, or else, and don't get your cell phone near me because I can't handle that. And it's like, maybe you need to upgrade your vibration instead of worrying about how perfect your environment is so you can survive. You know?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. What a story, though. It's like, what a story to call people up to a different level of living, right? like, cool, but you can do better.
Yeah. Yes.
And by walking in more love. By the way, hey, newsflash, Wild Bill beat the Nazis. No questions.
Yeah.
No question whatsoever. Absolutely. He was 100% in charge of the environment.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
As a prisoner, 100% in charge.
Yes.
Right? And people get so like, they did this to me and whatever. And then, you know, especially these days when like everyone's gotta, you know, everyone's so offended about everything because I can't have a good life unless you do this. I'm like, oh, come on, you know, it's like, you're a powerful person. Stop that.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my little,
I love
I'll get off my soapbox.
No, I love it. I always say, take full ownership of your entire energy signature. Take full ownership. Nothing's happening to you. It's happening through you. And if you want to change something, change the way you think about it and go from the inside out. And then you can't go wrong. Things will appear as, you know, I think it was Wayne Dyer who said, change the way you think, you see something, and that thing will appear to change. That's what alchemy is. That's what he did. That's what Wild Bill did. He said, you know what, I'm flipping that resistance. And it's just such a powerful way to live. Yeah. So thanks for chatting with me today. And I'm just so thrilled that we came
super fun. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, if people want to get a hold of you, it's the Anahata, what do we call it? Anahata Codes Activate Assisting Frequency.
Yeah, Facebook group.
Anahata
Also, I do have, my books are on Amazon. I have 4 books. If you go to Holly Hollowell on Amazon, you can read about all of those. And then I would say, lastly, if you want to train as a master alchemist, I have a website called masteralchemistcourse.com. It's a mouthful, masteralchemistcourse.com. And the tuition is affordable for anyone. And what it does is it unlocks all 3 of my best master classes forever. So it's this ongoing, right now we're in waterbending 2.0. And then we're going to go into Grid for Gaia, extending beyond our physicality into using ley lines and things, and then loop around back into assisting frequencies. And then we go again. So it's those 3 over and over and over again. And the information continues to evolve as I receive more information as we're evolving as humans. It's so much fun.
Awesome. Super cool. Well, I'm very glad to meet you. I do one thing pretty well. I attract people smarter than me who have areas of specialized knowledge that I've spent years and years and years developing, and then I like get to like cherry pick it and save myself ridiculous time. So I'm like,
Awesome.
oh, cool. Tell me the bottom line, and I'm like, bam! I just saved myself like 10 years of work in
Yeah.
one conversation. So
And we'll just be progressing together this conversation of wanding in water. All right, cool. Well, thanks so much. And we'll be in touch. Much love. Bye for now.
bless you.